Gráinne Ní Mháille, known in English as Grace O'Malley, grew up on Ireland's west coast among the islands of Clew Bay. Her clan lived by the sea and drew power from it. As a child, she learned the coast like a map, where to land, where to hide, and when the tide decides what happens next. Boats, wind, and narrow channels were her first teachers. Grace learns the coastline by heart, the sharp rocks at Achill, the gentle beach at Bertra, and the signals on Clare Island. One watchfire near Clare Island meaning a friend, two fires meaning someone wants to talk about fees. These fees are dues if you pay them, blackmail if you don't. Either way, a boat that ignores the custom of the coast usually reaches the next pier lighter than it left. Marriage in her world is a treaty written in kin ties and stone keeps. First, to Donal and Chogaid O'Flaherty, Donal of the battles, whose temper shows her what not to do with men and boats. In his waters on Lough Corrib, she learns that inland lakes can be highways if you treat them like sea. She organizes crews like a careful steward, manages herds, counted, fed, punished for straying, rewarded for bringing profit home. When Donal's fights make widowhood a practical plan, she keeps what matters: followers, roots, habits. Then another treaty. Richard in iron Burke, iron for his mail shirt, iron bars across doors in a rough country. A famous story says she married him for a year, gained Rockfleet Castle in the bargain, and at year's end politely set him aside. Believe the spirit, if not every detail. What matters is simple. The castle became hers, and the bay answered her signal fires. Do not picture romance on these decks. Picture management. Grace manages her ships like a strict harbor boss. She sets clear schedules by splitting the profits fairly and watching supplies and equipment carefully. The same mouth that says a prayer before a voyage also curses a lazy hand off the yard. She takes tolls from passing traders because the coastline is her fence, and the fence is meant to pay. Call it piracy if you like, but she will call it custom. When English officials prefer the word trade, she teaches them to hear it in Connaught accents. English rule arrives steadily, whether locals want it or not. Governors are told to turn chiefs into subjects, sea dues into rents, harbors into taxable entries. Sir Richard Bingham comes west with papers, soldiers, and the confidence of a man who trusts a map more than a tide chart. He raids islands, arrests her kin, and tries to make an example of a woman used to making examples of others. She answers the way coastal peoples usually answer empires. She pays when she must, stalls when she can, and sails when neither will do. The coast keeps its own minutes. She trades and takes tolls in the same week, deals with Spanish and other foreign crews when it suits her, and sells cattle across water when the roads are watched. She has sons, Owen, Murrow, and Tibbet na Long, Theobald of the ships, whose names read like footnotes to her main text. They fight, raid, reconcile, and sometimes promise Bingham they will be quiet, only to find that quiet does not feed crews. The governor calls them rebels. They call him late to dinner. Then the pressure tightens. Ships seized, kinsmen imprisoned, income cut off by orders described as for the sake of order, a son and a half-brother taken. Every chief eventually reaches a point where local workarounds stop working and the only desk left is the one at the center of power. For Grace, that means London. Imagine the surprise at Greenwich when rumor proves true. A sea leader from far West Ireland has come to petition Queen Elizabeth I herself. Grace is in her 60s. Courtiers expect a curiosity and meet a negotiator. Later stories add bright details: that she refused to bow as a queen in her own right, that she carried a knife and was allowed to keep it, that they spoke in Latin because it was neutral ground. Keep the meeting as fact, and those flourishes as debated. The important point is colder. She stands before the monarch and brings a list. The petition is not poetry, it is work. Release my kin, restore my boats, rein in the governor whose seizures break the peace they claim to keep. Allow me to collect what my forebears collected at sea, and I will help keep your waters quiet, she says. Elizabeth listens the way rulers listen when they are balancing other wars and short money. Ireland is trouble. Spain is watching. Resources are thin, conditional mercy makes sense. Letters go out, orders up the chain, notes on good behavior, and maintenance on top of promises written in a pool of desk light. This is not a fairy tale where one audience ends a life of storms. Orders from London do not always change what happens on the water. Back in Connaught, the same winds blow, the same routes promise profit, and the same officials test the limits of royal instruction. Some orders are obeyed, some are filed under soon, whereas others are ignored. Grace returns with a little paper armor and uses it as leverage. With it, she pries a son out of jail, protects a cargo, and offers oaths she intends to keep exactly as long as the other side keeps theirs. There are men who can win battles and cannot keep books. There are women who can keep books and thereby win wars that never make the chronicle. That's essentially the duality and yin and yang of biology. And in fact, Grace is the second kind. She knows which crews can be trusted at night and which captains drink through their share. She buys information like salt. When a storm pins a rival in a hook-shaped bay, she knows how long his anchor rope will hold. When an English pinnace shows its colors, she knows how many men that size can carry and how tired they will be if they have beaten out of Limerick against a foul wind. She knows what a governor's absence means and how much you can take in the space between a report sent and a reprimand received. What do you call her? Pirate, chieftain, traitor, or just all three of them? And none of them if you think the labels exclude each other. In her century, categories are tools, not cages. She pays dues at one pier and collects them at another. She kneels to a queen in one letter and threatens that queen's officer in the next. The state dislikes people who make borders look like opinions. The coast respects people who make sure supper shows up. Pull close to one day to understand her. A gray morning, rock fleet rising out of the water like a knuckle. A messenger brings a notice from Galway. A levy, arrears, a proposed seizure for some imagined delinquency. She reads it once and hands it to a clerk to file. A small boat dances in the tide, prompting a nearby fisherman to ask whether he has to pay Grace a toll for his new small boat to use the waters. A grandchild toddles toward a wet step and is pulled back with a curse that sounds like a blessing with the edges sanded off. The wind shifts. Canvas snaps. Far past Achill, a dark line of sail shows between sea and sky. She tells a boy to fetch her cloak. He runs because in this household time is a kind of money and no one survives by paying late. Think again of Elizabeth, another woman guiding men used to obeying other men. The two of them, queen and sea queen, practiced a kind of parallel cunning. One turned counsel into compliance. The other turned weather into income. Their meeting makes good copy because novelty draws the eye. The substance is that both learned how to make male hierarchies and do what they needed without breaking the furniture. They outmaneuvered governors not because they were magic, but because they kept lists, remembered names, and knew who owed what, and at what hour the tide moved under a bridge no one else had checked. History likes clean endings. Coasts prefer fade-outs. Grace grows old while the rules change around her. Plantations, seizures lawful and unlawful, English law rubbing against Gaelic custom until both are scratched. She sails less and commands more. There is no famous last battle, only a page that says a life has come to shore. Around 1603, as crowns change in London, her voice goes quiet. Perhaps at Rockfleet, those walls taking weather as patiently as they once took orders. Fog slides through Clew Bay and turns all castles into questions. What did she win? She kept her people fed off a coast that rarely sits still. She embarrassed a governor who thought a woman could be bullied into bookkeeping. She won letters from a queen who rarely granted them. She showed that empires can be bargained with. If you come through the door they forgot to lock, the door called local knowledge. She made the coastline work like her own set of rules, not a paper constitution with clauses and seals, but a lived one with dues, signals, and habits you obey if you'd like to see home again. That system outlived her, passed along through families and creeks, and learned by children who memorized rocks before they memorized prayers. Stand at low tide on a strand west of Westport, and you can still read her notes. The islands sit like punctuation across the bay. A gull lifts, a buoy knocks the side of a boat, and repeats her lesson. Pay attention or pay for it. Somewhere beyond the first line of waves, there's a patch of smooth water where a good captain can make up a lost hour. Grace found that patch again and again and built a life from it. Empires prefer straight roads and fixed calendars, but Grace preferred the path that changed every 6 hours and even knew how to use use it. If you made it to the end, don't forget to subscribe, and while you're at it, comment where you're watching from.